Welcome to B4, and today I'm joined by 4 of our professional services hub members who are Nicola Warbank. Good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you very much.
And we have Jonathan Walton from Whitley Stimson.
Good day to you.
Will Axtell from Pennington's Manchester Cooper.
Hi Richard, good afternoon everybody.
Hi, and David Willett from Grant Thornton.
Hello everyone.
So Nicola, if you could just give us a brief intro about you and about what you're going to be talking about with us today.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Nicola Warbank from Julian Solicitors, and we're a local well-established niche employment law practice. We have 3 partners, all with lots of experience advising large corporations and SMEs on a whole range of employment law issues. The practice has been going for over 15 years, and we're based out of offices in Weston-on-the-Green near Bicester. So for those of you who've visited the B4 offices, just 30 seconds down the road from there, although our clients are local and further afield, with many in both Oxford and London and beyond. Clients don't really fall into one category. We act for businesses across a range of sectors, so retail, travel, professional services, software, education and charities, to name a few. And the work we do is also hugely varied. The world of work throws up all sorts of issues, perhaps more so in the pandemic than ever. And we're really here to work with our clients to help them to navigate these issues. So today, the brief really was to talk about how we're here for the business community and the sorts of things that we've been doing and continue to do in the current challenging circumstances. So we're going to think about the sorts of issues that employers have had. All sorts of questions have cropped up. Can we afford to keep our staff? Is there enough work for them? Do we need to furlough them? What processes do we need to follow? And so I'm going to be talking about a few of the ways that we've been helping and supporting employers in the business community during this tricky time. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Nicola. Jonathan.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Walton. I'm a director at Whitley Stimson. We have 4 offices actually in Banbury, Witney, Bicester and High Wycombe. We're a 9-director firm, turnover about 6 million, and we're about 85 employees that are all based in those offices usually, and about 97% of them are currently working from home. So as a firm, we're in the forefront of basically the trusted advisor for clients. They come to us for all sorts of issues, accounting and tax and cash flow and survival as well. So there's a bit more to us than just trying to help people through their traditional chartered accountancy route. Today I'm going to talk predominantly about the cash flow management, also about dealing with HMRC in this particular period and experiences that we've had with that, but also, and I'm going to finish off by basically saying how we can help you.
Excellent, thank you, Jonathan. Over to you, Will.
Thanks Richard. Hello everybody. Yes, my name is Will Axtell. I'm a corporate partner at Pennington Manchester Cooper. We're based on the Oxford Business Park. We've got 6 UK offices, London, Cambridge, etc., and several overseas offices. So we're in Paris, Madrid, Singapore, and a few other locations. And by full service, I mean we act for both individual clients, so sort of on family matters, for example, but also for companies and other institutions like schools and universities. And we act on a broad range of legal specialisms, so real estate, intellectual property, employment, etc., across many sort of different business sectors, so life sciences, technology, education. So we're pretty much a broad church. I mean, my own area of expertise is corporate law. So I help growth companies access sort of equity funding. I also help clients buy and sell companies. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what I'm seeing in the M&A markets, how we're seeing growth companies and spin-outs access some of the help from the government. And then lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the technology we're seeing and utilising to help clients in these sort of unusual times.
Brilliant, excellent. We'll look forward to hearing from you later. And finally, David.
Yeah, thank you. So my name's David. I'm a director at Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton's one of the world's largest accountancy firms. We've got about 4,500 people in the UK. I'm present in well over 100 countries around the world. We pretty much support across all aspects of the finance agenda. So, audit, tax, advisory, consultancy, supporting our clients as they grow, scale, and diversify. So for my part, I'm going to, given us such a broad church of areas where we've supported our clients over the last year, I thought I'd just spend a few minutes just kind of recapping a timeline of the year and the sort of things that our clients faced and how we helped them.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, great to have you all with us today. As Nicola said, the brief really was how our professional services firms get to help businesses in the business community. And obviously, for all of you, it's been pretty well non-stop since lockdown. And you come up with a new set of legislation or rules and regulations that you have to disseminate to your clients, and lo and behold, within 24 hours, it's all changed. So I'm sure that's been very much the order of the day for all of you. So well done for keeping on top of everything, and rather you than me. But thank you for outlining your areas that you can be focusing on. We'd like to have a recap at the end where we can have a general conversation on some of the topics raised, and maybe find out how you're all coping with, I think Jonathan referenced 97% of his team working from home. So how these sorts of things are impacting on you as a business. But let's kick off with Nicola from Julian Taylor Solicitors and your brief. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so I don't think it will come as a surprise to anybody to hear that one of the things that we've been doing is helping people keep on top of the rapidly changing furlough rules. The government schemes for supporting payment of employee wages. It's been really important for employers who've needed to rely on this lifeline to understand what they need to have in place to access the furlough scheme and what it is that they can claim for. Accountants and payroll providers have also been instrumental in supporting businesses on this, but alongside our fellow professionals, we've played a role in ensuring our clients are up to speed with the rules and have the correct arrangements in place with their staff. So, for example, anyone placed on furlough should have a furlough agreement mapping out how their contract is varied for the duration of their absence. So that's something that we've commonly been involved with. And there have also been legal issues to navigate, like whether staff could take holiday during furlough and what happens to furlough during notice if you opt to make somebody redundant whilst they're on furlough. So we've been looking at those sorts of queries, and as everybody's seen from the news, there's often been sort of last minute releases of rules and that sort of thing. So it's keeping on top of those and updating our clients. And we've been sending out free email alerts to clients and others on our mailing list so that people can stay up to speed. I think it's true to say that there's a lot of sort of inaccurate or perhaps outdated information that's available online for people who are sort of Googling. So we've been making sure that people have the right information when they need it. Also been something we always do, but I think it's been even more important now given the range and novelty of the issues that have been cropping up, is acting as a sort of helpline really to HR departments and business owners on a day-to-day basis, whether it's questions about dealing with staff who are self-isolating, issues thrown up by the real surge in home working, how to commence a redundancy programme, or how to tackle tricky grievances or data subject access requests. We're here to assist and are at the end of the phone and really happy for people to contact us and for us to work with them in whatever way suits them. Just to give some examples on the sorts of things that we've been doing, we've advised a large retailer on their furlough processes and claims. We've advised a UK subsidiary of an international design business on their redundancies across their UK business, including how to select fairly between staff, the consultation process that is needed, and also ensuring that they understand the trigger points for collective consultation, because in certain circumstances, if you're proposing to dismiss 20 or more individuals at one establishment in a period of 90 days, then not only do you need to consult individually with the individuals, but also with employee reps. So helping people with that. And we've also advised organisations like a charity on disciplinary proceedings, complicated by the fact that everybody's at a distance, and how you manage that process where it becomes protracted due to the virus. Another thing we've been looking at is documentation. supporting employers with contracts, furlough agreements, bonus schemes, and employment policies. Things like a really good, clear home working policy suddenly rose right up the agenda. So that's something we've supported clients with, particularly looking at things like health and safety implications of working at home, and also things like confidentiality and data protection. So ensuring that you're staying on the right side of the GDPR rules, and also keeping adequate controls of valuable, confidential, commercial information, which is suddenly being accessed by all your staff at home in a whole range of locations that people might not have expected. And another thing that's worth noting is that back in April 2020, the rules on what needs to be included in new employment contracts that you're issuing to staff were updated, and additional details such as the benefits that you provide and details of any paid leave that you might offer need to be included in contracts for new recruits. And whilst lots of employers ticked that box at the time, clearly many were understandably rather distracted by the events that were going on in April. And we're still seeing a number of contracts that haven't yet been revised and so aren't quite ticking the boxes at the moment. So we can bring employers up to speed with that. And then just the final thing that I wanted to talk about is the support we can give for individuals too. So at Julian Taylor's, we act for many businesses, as I've said, but we also act on the other side of the table and represent employees who need advice on their rights. For example, if they consider that they've been unfairly treated. And at the moment, everybody knows someone, sadly, who's been made redundant in recent months or faces that risk now. And we support individuals by helping them to understand their entitlements and frequently advise on potential claims or maybe settlement agreements. A settlement agreement is a contract or a deal between an employer and a departing employee where, in return for an enhanced payment, the employee waives their claims against their employer. And individuals need advice on those agreements for them to be binding, and we can provide that. Employers who are enhancing redundancy payments and are wanting settlement agreements may want to refer their employees to an independent advisor to be able to go and get that advice, and we can provide that advice. So employers should keep us in mind if they need to refer their staff on to someone who's needing settlement agreement advice. I think that's probably the main information that I wanted to cover today, and also really just to encourage people to reach out to us if they have concerns and think that we can help with your people issues. That's it from me.
Brilliant, Nicola. So call to action, get in contact with you via the website?
Yeah, brilliant.
Excellent. And just one question for me. One of the members was referencing risk registers the other day, and how nobody had sort of included this sort of situation in risk registers or even thought about this as a possible outcome. Have you been surprised by anybody that was actually quite specifically prepared for a situation like this?
If I'm honest, no, not really. No. I think this took everybody by surprise.
Obviously, there's general clauses which cover certain things, but nobody specifically had any plans in place for a pandemic of it.
No, not really. I mean, sometimes employment contracts do include sort of layoff and short-time working clauses, which enable employers to have some flexibility in winding down people's hours, or perhaps saying, stay home for a while. But that wasn't the norm at all. And I think that's a shift that will become the norm. And when I'm drafting contracts now, that's going into them all.
As I say, going forward, people will be thinking about all sorts of places, aren't they? So it's going to make your job even more vital. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Nicola. Good to hear from you, and we'll revisit you later. Jonathan, over to you. So to the world of accountancy, and how are things going at Whitley Stimson?
It's been busy, as you said. I mean, we were very busy really from the 19th of March. That was before the official announcement, but we pretty much sent our people home just before Boris told everyone they had to go home. But it's been busy because, as I said earlier, we're often the first port of call for clients when there's any kind of drama, let alone something that nobody had been really prepared for. I think we all know that some businesses have struggled for profitability in the past 6 or 7 months, and the old adage, of course, is cash is king. But if I just talk you through what financial statements look at when I speak to clients on a annual and 6 monthly, 3 monthly basis, the focus has always been on the profit and loss account and the balance sheet. And in fact, small companies and medium-sized companies are pretty much exempt from having to do cash flow statements or flow of funds statements, as they used to be called. And it's incredible how things have moved from just having a look at a profit and loss account review and to see how much money that we all think we're going to make. It's become very much a cash kind of reporting environment. I mean, last year, UK SMEs were owed 34 billion in late payments, which is about £35,000 each. And that's before this horrific thing turned up. So you can see that people are very much struggling with their cash. Of course, many businesses have had low cash reserves, always been kind of fluctuating on their borrowing requirements as well, or unstable cash flows from seasonal things as well. So, cash has become a lot more important. And so my advice to companies has been, develop a treasury plan, give it a grand name. It's something I've come across in some of the big firms of accountants refer to them as treasury plans. But actually, if you begin to call it a treasury plan and you spread that word throughout your organization, it seems to give it a bit more kudos than just a bit of cash flow management. And there's a various amount of steps that you need to look at for doing some sort of treasury plan or a grandiose cash flow. I think the first thing to do is to look at the framework, establish a very robust framework for your supply chain risk management. We've had situations where clients have been very optimistic about the future just to be let down, in fact, by the people that can't provide the goods and the services. And so consequently, the knock-on effect of that's been quite disastrous, because to try and fight and win contracts in the first place, it's been difficult enough, but then to be let down. So my advice is to ensure that you understand the risk of some of your key trading partners. Speaking of your own finances, dialogue is just the best thing you can have. I mean, if you can speak to your bank, speak to your customers, they're very kind, they're very human. We've had situations where, even for our own debt collection at our firm, we've put little messages on the bottom of our statements, and our FD is absolutely convinced that these types of human approach and human touch works. Focus on the cash conversion, not profitability. I think that's very important. And just try and get everybody to think like the CFO across the organization. Even in small firms where there are sort of 7 or 8 people, people are still asking questions about whether they should buy the microwave in the kitchen this time round, and just make sure everyone's aware that there are cash constraints on a business, and that because no one really knows how long this is going to go on for, just to be prudent. Accountants are very prudent, it's the nature of our personalities, but I think to spread that through a whole organization is very, very key. Look at the variable costs. We've sat down with clients in the last several months actually, and sat down and worked out which costs actually can we think about reducing, which costs can we cut completely. Look at the cost benefit analysis of those particular costs, because some clients, they have this habit of spending, and they have these standing orders that go out or direct debits that go out, and they don't really sit down and appreciate the value that some of those things bring back in. So it's not to say cut them, but just reviewing them is very, very sensible, because sometimes it's very hard to do the fixed costs. One of the things you can do is look at your capital investment plans as well, because there's no reason why you shouldn't put those on hold. But there's also no reason why you can't negotiate with existing finance providers on terms of repayment. If you're in retail and various other things, I've just, hopefully no one I know is watching this, but I've just bought myself a beautiful guitar. First thing that leapt out to me on a £5,500 guitar was interest-free credit. And I thought, my word, that website hadn't ever offered me that before. That particular supplier hadn't offered it. And I think it's something that they're thinking about doing to try and push their sales up. Of course, they're now having considerable difficulty getting the stock in play, because clearly everybody wants to take advantage of that. But if you can get a way to incentivize your customers, it's a great thing to do. And I know a law firm in London that's knocking 10% off their fees if there's an early payment. I think that's a very sensible thing to do. So just look at other ways of bringing cash into the business. Understand your business interruption insurance as well. I think people are, there's been a lot of bad press about insurance, but there's been some good press as well about the effects of business interruption through a pandemic like this. And so it's something that you often might need legal advice on. Actually, it's not necessarily an accountant's bag of tricks to sit down and analyze what's covered and what isn't. But I would suggest that you look into that too. Sale and leaseback of assets can raise emergency cash. A lot of clients have huge amounts of capital in their business and fixed assets on the balance sheet, and the stuff's in good condition, it's in good nick. So there's no reason why somebody can't say to a finance company, look, buy it back from us and let us lease it. And that will give you an immediate capital sum. And then you'll be able to repay the borrowing on that over a period of time. The most important thing, though, I think, is looking at other ways of raising equity and raising finances. If your business is a stable business, there's no reason why you can't speak to friends and family. Some people have rich relatives or very wealthy friends, and if you look at the returns that they're getting from banks and high street building societies, it's not a huge rate of interest. And if you have enough confidence in your business being able to make it through, think about maybe just having conversations with them about some short-term financing loans.
Brilliant, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Back to the world of law and Will Axtell.
Thanks, Richard. Yes, as I mentioned in my intro, we're quite a broad church at Pennington Manches, so we have lots of different teams working on different sort of legal areas. And they've all been pretty busy really over this sort of pandemic. We've also obviously got sort of Brexit just around the corner as well, which is sort of people are coming to terms with. But my own area of practice is as a company corporate lawyer. So what I've been up to from a sort of personal perspective is really helping clients access equity funding, including the use of the government's future fund that Jonathan mentioned. So that the future fund is a matched funding scheme to support innovative companies, of which there are lots in the Thames Valley and Oxfordshire. So if a company raises, for example, £500,000 from external investors, then the government will match that, meaning the company can raise £1 million in total in that example. And that scheme has been extended to the end of January 2021. So we've seen a lot of the sort of high growth tech companies, life sciences companies access that support, which is great. And we've been very busy generally on the sort of spin out work from the university as well as other growth funding. So for example, we helped Mind Foundry, which is a local artificial intelligence business, on its Series A funding round. It raised £10 million. We recently acted on Oxford University's 200 spin-out, a company called Fish AR, which is a cyber security company. And we're also seeing lots of COVID-related work in the Oxford ecosystem. So there's obviously been some exciting news about the Oxford vaccine today, and we're very pleased to act on the original spin-out of Vaccitech back in 2016. And I went to the Jenner Institute and met one of the founders, Professor Sarah Gilbert, who's obviously leading the charge on that vaccine and has become pretty high profile. And she was very impressive then, and obviously has done a great job with this Oxford vaccine. So that's very exciting. And we're seeing lots of quantum computing, medtech companies. So that's all great, good news. I also do M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, buying and selling companies. And I think we did see a quieter patch over the summer. I think the economic uncertainty meant that people were sort of focusing on other, immediate priorities. But it has come back in the autumn, partly driven, I think, by potential capital gains tax increases being flagged in the March budget. So we are seeing, I think, like many advisors, a rush in deals trying to get them across the line for that potential increase in March. And I think COVID is also creating some hot sectors. So obviously Zoom is, everybody knows about Zoom. We're on Zoom now. Remote work applications, healthcare, home delivery. So those are doing very well and achieving very sort of high valuations. So I think, generally M&A now, we're seeing good deal flow and helping both buyers and sellers achieve a sort of smooth transaction process. The third sort of theme I wanted to touch upon was how we're seeing technology in the way we help clients now. So we're all pretty much still working remotely at the moment, especially in this lockdown. And that's actually been relatively painless. Obviously, there are problems which we could probably come on to, but I think we're all finding new ways to support and help clients. So, for example, our family law team have created this online client tool where people who are thinking of a divorce can go on and fill out this questionnaire, and that will produce sort of free initial sort of bespoke advice for them. And if they wanted a subsequent sort of follow-up, then the issues have been narrowed, and it's a much more efficient and basically cheaper process. We're seeing quite a lot of use of artificial intelligence in some of the products we're using for due diligence, in dispute resolution cases. So again, taking some of the donkey work out and leveraging technology to help us. And I'm sure, like Nicola and others, we're seeing products like DocuSign being used for electronic signatures. We're having problems with witnessing, etc. But we're less reliant on the old-fashioned sort of wet ink. So I think the pandemic has really accelerated some existing trends and increased use of technology that I think accountants, lawyers, and other business advisors are leveraging to help their clients. And then lastly, I think I just wanted to mention, I think it's important that as we as professional community give back a bit and help support the local community. And I think obviously the arts is suffering at the moment quite badly. And we've been a long-time supporter of Creation Theatre, which is an Oxford-based theatre company. And they moved very quickly in March onto Zoom to deliver a really sort of fun and exciting production of The Tempest. And that sort of went viral, and people watching it around the world. It got reviews, even in the New York Times. So I think it's very important for, the whole business community to continue to support the arts and other local charities as best we can in these sort of challenging times. So I think as a sort of last sort of takeaway, I think, yes, do pick up your phone or go onto your advisor's websites. There are issues that we've probably seen other clients go through, and I think we can point you in the right direction very quickly to help you. So that's me.
Thanks very much, Will. You reference obviously getting experience from clients' experiences. Are you like today? You're on here with other professional services experts. Are you working more closely with other professional services firms? Are you noticing more collaboration now than before?
Yes, I think so, because there's so many sort of new issues. I mean, no one had really heard of furlough, to be honest, obviously before sort of March. So I think there's lots of pooling of knowledge and sort of best practice, and that's definitely a sort of a positive outcome, I think, and also remote working. I think talking to different people, and you see a more personal side of things, sort of cats in the background and children walking in. So I think it has brought out a more sort of human side to business.
And you referenced Sarah Gilbert and the Gender Institute earlier. Do you think the good news, as you referenced today's news about the vaccine, will have a positive effect on business generally in Oxfordshire, and a bit of a halo effect?
Well, I think it highlights Oxford as as a world-leading scientific basis, and I think the throughput of spin-outs from the university with this sort of life science technology basically benefits both humankind, but also can make money for investors and the university. So it's a bit of a win-win, I think.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, over to David Willett. David, you've been waiting patiently. From Grant Thornton, over to you. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So the guys have gone through loads of really good stuff, and I thought, for my part, I'd take some reflections on the year and how it's passed as a whole, and so the areas we've been helping our clients with, and how we've seen sort of trends develop and throughout the year. So sort of jumping back to March, April time, when the pandemic first hit, there was a lot of areas where our clients took a pretty introspective view, really looking at kind of practically how do we cope with lockdown, what's happening to our supply chains, are we getting in the components we need to continue manufacturing? And then as the extent of the issue developed and everyone was locked down across the country, there was a real exercise in reforecasting, modelling, cash flows that Jonathan mentioned earlier. making sure we've got the right sensitivity analysis. Are the businesses, it was really an existentialist question. Are we going to be able to continue to trade in a remote working environment? As well as our customers, will we get our cash in? How's our bad debt? And all the good things that Jonathan mentioned around cash flow. So, there's that real effort to support that initial "what do we do now" question. And there was a lot of stuff which again has been touched on earlier around that cash management aspect. So the VAT deferrals, the introduction of the job retention scheme. Not just what you have to do legally to get it in, but then how do you calculate it? When you've got salary sacrifice or various sort of benefit aspects and how the calculations come together. Then how does it interact with areas such as time to pay? The more familiar to a lot of people ways to manage your debt with the revenue. And there's some real intricacies between the job retention scheme and time to pay arrangements. What can we do to accelerate R&D tax relief claims? And that real focus on supporting the cash generation. At the same time, there are a number of practical issues that our clients faced, especially the international ones. So we've got internationally mobile employees. What do you do with these individuals who could be based overseas and locked down when they're on a kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4 week visit? And do you trigger a permanent establishment and some sort of tax presence overseas because someone's been locked down because of the COVID pandemic? So a lot of issues in which really come to the fore in March and April, but as has been touched on earlier, they're all very live issues now. The job retention scheme will be audited. There's already been some prosecutions, so making sure that the claims have been put in and are accurate is a really important area. The deferred VAT will need to be paid back, and if you've still got people overseas because of the pandemic, your tax risk really does increase as that time passes on. So initially, a really, really fraught time, and everyone was kind of heads down trying to make sure that we can keep the businesses going, keeping our clients surviving and scaling. From there was a period, I'd say, where by the summer, the adaptation had come in. People were familiar with remote working as much as they could be, and so obviously, as was touched on, I think by Will, different sectors have had different ease and as how quickly they could adapt. From a finance perspective, this rapid change brought the real need to review the finance infrastructure. So a lot of questions were being put out about areas such as, is the data that we're collecting as a finance team going to be sufficient to make the necessary decisions in this adapting world? Can technology improve our business and our reporting resilience? All the practical issues about returning to work, what property footprint do we want? What property footprint do we need? How do we make it COVID secure? And how can we manage our working capital to improve our liquidity? And these are all the sort of big questions that we were working through with our clients and coming up with solutions to this changing world. At the same time, as Will mentioned, kind of the back end of summer, the M&A market did pick up, completing deals virtually. And your point, Richard, about the collaboration, I think when you're looking at virtual completions, it really did get everyone together to make sure that we were on the same page and could complete transactions in this virtual environment. And what businesses were looking for in terms of value in the market, a lot of consistency, scale, the potential for growth, good relationships and how they fit, and the ability to generate cash, all consistent pre and post pandemic. But clearly, if you have that resilience through the pandemic, continuing to grow in that environment, then and you've got you're tech enabled and the ability to continue to trade in this remote working, then clearly there was a premium for those kind of businesses that were being generated. And then as we get through the autumn to kind of where we are now and what's to come, I think the point about taking a reflection now that things are a little bit more back to normal from a 2020 perspective of what constitutes normal, I think there's that real reflection on how has the business changed and transformed in the year, and is the internal mechanisms and processes and controls still fit for purpose? So we work with a number of our clients to look at risk registers, and you mentioned it earlier and from the context of pandemic, Richard, but actually looking at the wider risks that the business face, and given the adapted operating model. Is the internal control environment completely suitable for how the business operates now? Do we have different operating models, and is the transfer pricing policies that support them up to date? Is there scope for greater R&D tax relief claims because of the innovation that's been absolutely driven by the need of the pandemic? And we've got all that going on, and at the same time we do have Brexit sneaking up, as Will mentioned. The withdrawal agreement ends in probably 6 weeks from now, and we're doing a lot of planning with our clients to really understand what this means for them, and in particular in the supply chains and the kind of the VAT and the customs duties and the additional cost and compliance that will be happening for a lot of our clients from the 1st of January. And the last point I guess I'd say is around M&A, and it's been touched on absolutely earlier, but the market is still holding up, and certainly my team, in the tax team, we're probably involved in more transactions at the moment than we have been for years. The Office of Tax Simplification's recommendations to changes to capital gains tax, if they are absolutely adopted, then there's going to be a clear incentive for entrepreneurs in looking at crystallizing value in the shorter term under the current legislation than the proposed changes that could be coming in next year. So we're doing a lot of work at exploring areas like employee ownership trusts, which are really tax efficient ways to sell businesses. So yeah, I think my summary, it's been a very challenging and transformational year. It's probably fair to assume that 2021 will continue to be challenging, and we'll continue to need to adapt to change. And I guess it's our responsibility as advisors to stay close to our clients and help them navigate through these challenges.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, David. I appreciate your contribution. And generally, are you preferring working from home? Are you missing connection with colleagues and clients?
It's a fascinating question. If you'd have asked, no, I did ask a lot of my clients sort of early on in the year, do you see yourself going back to an office? And they were pretty strong majority of saying, this is brilliant. I love working from home. We're going to make loads of savings on property footprint, and we get so much more done, and we don't have to spend time commuting. You fast forward 6 months and everyone's pretty sick of the same four walls. And I think from my personal perspective, I had my daughter in the pandemic, so we've got a very young child at home, and the ability to get to the office from time to time would be greatly appreciated. And I think there will be a point where we strike a balance. The footprint won't be the same as it was, but it won't be the same as it is. And I think a couple of days a week, 3 days a week, that kind of balance between working from home to get stuff done and the collaboration you get from being in an office, the ability to really learn from your peers, to listen, to be collaborating, to be engaged. It's going to have to be a blend, in my opinion.
So your daughter will see that comment. You realise in 5-10 years, your wife will bring that up.
Yeah. I'm all right with that.
Excellent. And how's everybody else finding working from home and not having that regular engagement with clients and colleagues? The water cooler moment's probably gone, not forever, but certainly for now. And are you finding it easier to sort of get those sound bites from colleagues? Or
I think between these two lockdowns, we'd actually made a conscious decision that anyone above a sort of a manager level would be allowed to work from home for 2 days a week forever, because we'd found that we hadn't lost too much chargeable time. We felt we were very efficient, and so consequently we knew how much people enjoyed it. But of course, if they didn't want to, they didn't have to. But then of course it was taken out of our hands again. But I think we've allowed people to go in if they have to do things in the office. But we've had a lot of Teams groups and a lot of quizzes and little bits of interaction in that way, and I think those have helped. We've got a Whitley weekly which is distributed, and it's got a focus on somebody's life. And given that we've got 4 offices, and even though they're so close together, there's not a massive amount of travel between people in various offices. So having little things like that have helped a lot. But I think deep down, everybody loves to go in and see what's going on, and it's just our nature.
You play guitar, no doubt.
Indeed, thank you.
It's strange, isn't it, how we've probably got to know our colleagues a lot better being apart from them than we ever did with them. So, and Nicola, how are you finding things?
Yeah, fine. I mean, we're a pretty small team, and we talk a lot anyway, so we've sort of kept up. But I do think that the little window in between the lockdowns where we were able to get in a little bit more just highlighted how much we've missed that and kind of what we are missing out on. And so it kind of gave us a bit of a taste for it again, and made us think, oh, actually, it is better when we can go in. So I think I think we will probably, as David said, have a sort of blended approach going forward. So perhaps all spending a bit more time at home, but definitely making sure that we're in the office and crossing over, because it does just germinate ideas and help collaborate, and it's always useful. So yeah, I'm missing it.
Will?
No, I'd agree with all that. I mean, I think one thing it's doing is removing geography from the equation a bit. So, we're working a lot more closely with our other UK offices, like, Cambridge or London, which is good, and that's worked well. But yeah, there are pros and cons, aren't there? And I think we will not be going back to the old ways. It will be a mixture, and what works best for employees and clients, really.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, appreciate you all joining us today. Perhaps in summary, I could just ask you all just to highlight one key takeaway for our viewers, starting with you, Nicola.
I suppose I'm going to draw on something that Will said. Will, you were saying that this whole experience has really drawn out and highlighted the personal nature of a personal side to business. We've all seen into each other's homes, and we're all, and I think that I suppose I just want to highlight that as professionals, we are also people, and we also are service providers. And so we are here for our clients and are approachable and, happy to help. I think that's important for people and our clients to know, and to feel like they can contact us and that we're here to help.
Excellent. Thank you. Jonathan?
I think my message is cash flow forecast. We have some quite small clients with turnovers of a couple of £1 million that are looking at them every week, and they're modelling what would happen if they closed a division here or an office there or whatever. And I think to continually challenge those questions in your head keeps your mind very focused about the cash requirements going forward. And as I said at the very beginning, cash is king, and without it, business can't survive.
Develop a treasury plan.
Exactly.
Will? Oh, there's the dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd echo Nicola's comment, really, that I think, don't be afraid of your advisors. Do pick up the phone, do get in touch, because a lot of us have been there, done it, seen other clients in a similar situation, and we'll be able to get you safely to a solution pretty quickly without you having to sort of reinvent the wheel. So, we are all here to help.
Sounds like a new marketing campaign for professional advisors. Don't be afraid of your advisors. And David?
Yeah, I mean, just to disappointed. I just have to echo the same point. If in essence we are here as advisors to help and advise, and that's kind of our raison d'être. So, we just want to make sure that our clients get the right support they need at the right time. So, yeah, the same point.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us, and good to see you all sort of standing side by side. I know you're all potentially fishing in the same pond, but it's great how the B4 members are now collaborating on articles and webinars, podcasts, etc. Great to get the benefit of your wisdom, and hopefully the viewers and listeners will have got the message that you are there for them, and if they need you, they can contact you via the website that we'll publish at the end of the video and the podcast. So thank you very much.